Netflix has a brand new martial arts series. You know we have to talk about it. What is up, Flick fans, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking Wu Assassins, the brand new show that dropped yesterday on Netflix. I need your comments down below. Did you enjoy this show? What'd you think of it? Let's talk about it. So, a warrior chosen as the latest and last Wu assassin must search for the powers of an ancient triad and restore balance in San Francisco's Chinatown. Funniest line of the whole show, everything ends here, in San Francisco. That's where everything decides to converge, is San Francisco? Okay, I can buy it. Listen, like I said, I love a good martial arts show or movie. Earlier this year, we got Kingdom. That was awesome. And of course, I'm a massive fan of the Raid movies and movies in that nature. Heck, even Netflix has been bringing us really solid martial arts films, some that haven't delivered, but there were a few in there where I'm like, yeah, one of the more memorable films of that respective year. So then you get Wu Assassins, and this is a movie that was meant to be an action/crime thriller with mystical elements in there. And those mystical elements is something that I really didn't expect or anticipate to impact the story as much as they actually did. And here's what I'm going to compare this show to, right? You have a little bit of, you remember the Jackie Chan Adventures, the animated show that came out about 15 years ago? I love that show growing up. And you have those mystical elements combined with martial arts, of course, being done by Jackie Chan. And I loved what that show represented, what it was all about. You get elements of that in here. You also get elements of Avatar: The Last Airbender. You have earth and fire and air and water. Different elements in that show compared to Wu Assassins, but you're still trying to master those elements here. And you get our boy, the man, the myth, the legend himself, to play our main character and to play the last Wu assassin in this show. And for me, it worked really, really well. Now, is this show perfect? No. Is the narrative the best I've seen all year? Absolutely not. And the story really does fall flat at times, and I'll explain that here in just a bit why I wasn't as happy with the show as I wanted it to be going in, or as happy as I was, frankly, when you first get thrown in that very first episode when he is just going to town. And from a technical aspect, this show works, at times, really, really well. The cinematography during the fight scenes, some of the best I've seen on television in quite some time. Really, the shot selection in general, it's good. It's good, it's refreshing, and you continue to see martial arts, and you continue to see fighting in movies like John Wick and Hobbs and Shaw, and even going back to the Raid movies, it continues to scare me because I feel like eventually it could get stale. I don't think it will, but every time I watch a movie or a show in this vein, I don't want it to feel familiar. And it slightly feels familiar, but it still really worked for me because of the entertainment value coming from someone so good. Playing the character of Kai Jin, he is just so good at what he does. He balances the choreography almost effortlessly with the acting. I think he's a good actor. He's a bit flat at times in this show, a bit more wooden than I wanted him to be, but overall, he is the perfect guy to cast as the lead, playing a very different character than he did in The Night Comes for Us, which is the Netflix movie I was referring to earlier. But then you have our supporting cast, and you start diving deep into the supporting cast. Their characterizations, their depth, their levels, they weren't there for me. And this is where the show starts to fall flat when you get into the side players. The build-up for them, they try, but one of the reasons why they don't necessarily execute is because of the dialogue and just the way characters converse with one another, taking us away from what we enjoy about the show, which is the lore, something I like how they started to build that up in the first few episodes and then pay that off in the final 2 episodes, kind of the part 1, part 2 finale. I like that. That storyline comes to a close. There's definitely going to be more Wu Assassins. I think this show is going to be a hit with a lot of people, and I do hope for a season 2 because I think this show plants the seeds for a successful future. But here's what I need from it, really. I need better side characters. Nothing against Catherine Winnick. She's really good. And you know what? She's actually okay in the show. There are a few people kind of peppered throughout that work. But then there are other characters that they kind of fall flat and they seem over the top. Our villain, he was good. Not as good as I wanted him to be. And when he starts to showcase his firebending skills, that's when it gets cool. Until you pay attention to the CGI. And we come to the biggest issue I have with this show, something that started to feel distracting at times, and that is the special effects. They were bad, not just bad. And I don't know how you can have such great choreography and stunt work, and everything in that regard was great. The practicality of this show works. And that's when they started to introduce these fantastical elements. I'm sitting back like, all right, this could work, but you have to make sure it at least kind of looks believable. And it's so bad in this show that it didn't even kind of get there. Some of the worst special effects I've seen, and there's one moment in particular, well, multiple moments, but one series of scenes that we get where he's basically going to this other world and talking to the people that came before him. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to ruin plot elements. But in those scenes, he has to kind of prove himself, maybe taking on a big water dragon or punching a rock extremely hard. The rock, the dragon, some of the fire effects, and just the effects in general, they all look bad. Now, here's the thing that I'm going to say about this show. It is so entertaining at times, I did forget how bad the special effects were. They're cheesy, they're over the top, they are cartoonish. If you can accept that, if you can set that aside in your mind and say, you know what, maybe they didn't have the biggest budget to work with this show. Maybe they couldn't afford to do something a bit better with the fantastical element, then I think you can accept that and enjoy this show, almost every aspect of it. Let's face it, you're probably not in it for the character development. You're probably not in it to see depth to certain side characters that maybe have a bit too much screen time that kind of shift focus away from what I cared about personally. If you're not in it for those things, if you just want to see great action, it's a bit more few and far between than I expected it to be, but when it happens, when it's prevalent on screen, it's so exciting, and it really carries the story forward. And nothing against the lore that it tries to flesh out, because I enjoyed that lore. The shows that I compared it to earlier, I see that in this show start to progress. In episode 1, I'm like, oh, cool. And the entire concept of him not being able to reveal himself to certain people as the Wu assassin, I thought was really cool. It was fascinating, because you forget at times he walks into a place and I'm like, why don't these, it's because they don't see our lead here. They see Mark Dacascos, what? AKA the chairman from the Iron Chef. We actually saw him earlier this year in John Wick Chapter 3. Great in both things. A lot of people may know him from some other movies he starred in, but he pops up in here, and while he doesn't get a lot of martial arts-esque things to do, because every time there is a fight scene beginning on screen, it kind of flashes back to our protagonist, and I like the way that they do that. Camera tricks, yes, but really just kind of tricking the mind, and it worked well. But his presence is cool. He's just a cool guy. He's a cool actor, plays a cool character, and it all goes back to really our lead and the fact that he has to take on this responsibility, and you feel for him because of that. I mean, the guy is just a chef. Another reason why I thought it was funny they brought him in, and he's a darn good chef, and you learn about him as a character. It starts out, of course, as, I don't want to do this. I don't think I can do this. Why do I have these abilities? Why am I this Wu assassin? As that begins to get fleshed out, I became more engaged with that storyline. Once again, the plot, it goes in a direction that was interesting enough. It never blew me away from a story perspective, but then the side players come in and they kind of form this team, and the team was really fun, and the dynamic overall was good. It was more the writing, the dialogue, the story, the plot. Just things were really, really lacking for me, and it almost caused me to get turned off from this show. But I have to say, I'm a sucker for a show like this, a great martial arts show, kung fu, anything you want to give me in that regard, I enjoy. And the fantasy element, once again, brought a lot to it. If you can get past the CGI and the special effects, I think you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of this. I can't go as high as I think a lot of people will go with my score. I'm going to go with 60, a solid 60%, right on that fresh mark, because I do think it's really fun. It's entertaining. It's definitely cartoonish, but there are things that I see in here. I'm like, if they can improve upon that and bring in the same directors and the showrunners and the cinematographers, all of those things, just get a different story going, maybe bring in some new screenwriters, I think the show can improve, and I want to see more of it. Season 1 did just enough for me to get on board for Season 2, but I want to know your thoughts down below. Did you care about all of the things that I had critiques for? Are you upset at the fact that I complained about so many things about this show? I really, really enjoyed my time with it regardless, and I think this is a show that you can have a lot of fun with. Just another thing on Netflix. You can sit back, relax, maybe turn your brain off, and binge, and not be upset at the fact that you sat and watched 10 episodes of television like I did this morning. I'm really tired. Thank you guys so much for watching once again. Way more videos coming today. I think I have 3 more reviews dropping after this one, and I'm excited to talk more Netflix, Dora the Explorer, The Kitchen, and some other stuff. So you guys are the best, and I'll see you very soon.